Ah, the feminization of men. What a topic, eh? It's a modern Pandora's box. Pry it open, and out come all the confused feelings, bad takes, and societal dysfunctions that make you want to pour a stiff drink. Let's just call it what it is, a subtle, or not so subtle ploy to emotionally neuter men, gift wrap them in vulnerability, and present them as the perfect playthings for manipulation. Because guess what happens when you train men to be emotional wrecks? You make them easier to control. Think of it like this. If you're an athlete or a competitor in anything, be it sports, business, or a bar fight, you know one golden rule. If you can trigger your opponent emotionally, you've already won. Emotional people make bad decisions. They get sloppy, predictable, and frankly, embarrassing. It's not rocket science, it's bloody common sense. But here's the rub. Most people don't realize this is what's happening. They just gobble up the narrative that a man should cry more, talk about his feelings more, and embrace his inner soft boy. And who benefits from this? Women, mostly, because they're suddenly the gatekeepers of truth, morality, and relationship dynamics. Except, instead of building something solid, this power play builds a house of sand. No structure, no integrity, no definitions, just a chaotic sea of feelings and relativity. Now let's get one thing straight. This isn't some misogynistic tirade. It's not inherently wrong for women to want emotional connection. But when the entire framework for relationships and masculinity becomes subjective, it's like building a castle on quicksand. No foundation, no rules, just chaos. And when you build your house on chaos, don't be shocked when it collapses. Here's why this matters. The more emotional people are, men or women, the easier they are to manipulate. Marketing companies know it, governments know it, and media conglomerates definitely know it. Why else do you think every ad campaign screams at you to feel something? They're not selling you products, they're selling you control. Get you emotional, get you reactive, and suddenly you're buying crap you don't need, voting for people you don't like, and worst of all, sabotaging your own relationships. The sad reality? Women don't actually want emotional men. Not really. What most women actually want is a man who knows who he is, what he stands for, and where the relationship is going. They want a partner who provides clarity, safety, and structure. But the societal narrative tells them to demand emotional vulnerability instead. And when they get it, they're unsatisfied. Why? Because emotionality doesn't answer the real questions. Who is this guy? What are we doing? Where is this relationship going? Am I safe with him? No amount of emotional processing or therapy will answer those questions. Yet the demand for more emotional labor persists. It's a hamster wheel. No matter how much work a man does, it's never enough. There's always more growth, more processing, or some vague inner work to do. Why? Because it was never about achieving an objective outcome. It's about perpetual drama, a bottomless pit of unmet needs and shifting goalposts. So, what's the solution? It's shockingly simple. Men and women need to focus on what actually works. Forget the Instagram fairy tales about constant bliss and perfect partners. Life isn't a rom-com, it's a grind. And relationships are about functionality, not fantasy. For women, this means developing some self-awareness. Instead of blaming your partner for not meeting your needs, maybe start by figuring out what those needs actually are. Learn to articulate your feelings, understand them, and here's the kicker: take responsibility for them. Nobody can complete you or fix your emotional baggage. That's your job. Own it. For men, it's about rediscovering stoicism, not the toxic grin and bear it kind, but the kind that helps you stand firm in who you are. Be the guy who answers the important questions through your actions, not your emotional breakdowns. Be clear, be decisive, and for God's sake, be honest. Women don't need you to cry more. They need you to be solid when the world around them feels like it's falling apart. Here's the real tragedy. We've got everything flipped. Women are trying to be men. Men are trying to be women. Everyone's playing roles they were never meant to play. And surprise, it's not working. It's like handing a footballer a paintbrush and expecting them to create a masterpiece. You've got chaos, confusion, and a society that doesn't even know what normal looks like anymore. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to dominate each other emotionally, manipulate each other, or tick some arbitrary boxes of modern relationship advice. It's to create harmony, a dynamic where both partners bring their strengths to the table. Women bring their emotional depth and nurturing instincts. Men bring their clarity, stability, and protective nature. Together, they create something that actually works. Look, this isn't about pointing fingers at women or men. Modern life is a raging dumpster fire of contradictions, and we're all standing around, trying to figure out whether to put it out or just toast some marshmallows. The reality is, both sexes are getting shafted here, fed a cocktail of confusing, emotionally charged, and downright manipulative messaging designed to pit us against each other. Why? Because division is profitable. It's a lot easier to control a broken society when everyone's too busy fighting each other to realize they're being played. Think about it. The systems that are supposed to help us, education, media, mental health services, even pop culture, are the ones reinforcing the divide. Instead of teaching us how to work together, they're feeding us an endless loop of men are toxic and women are irrational. It's a propaganda machine, cranking out dysfunction 24/7, and most people don't even see it for what it is. Divide and conquer. The agenda behind the chaos. This isn't a random accident. There's a deliberate agenda to keep the sexes in conflict. Why? Because united, men and women are a force of nature. Together, we build families, communities, and civilizations. But divided? We're easy to control, easy to market to, and easy to manipulate. If you can keep men and women constantly questioning each other, constantly on edge, you create a society that's too fractured to stand up for itself. The narrative is designed to polarize. Men are told they're inherently oppressive, that their masculinity is a problem to be solved. Meanwhile, women are sold a fantasy of independence so extreme it leaves them isolated, exhausted, and confused about why they're still unhappy. The result? Both sides are miserable, but instead of blaming the system, they blame each other. It's a rigged game, and we're all the losers. The mixed bag of modern life. What makes it worse is the relentless barrage of contradictory messaging we're all drowning in. One moment, you're told to be yourself. The next, you're told you're not enough unless you've done a complete emotional overhaul, processed all your trauma, and learned how to communicate like a therapist. Men are told to open up, but not too much because that's unattractive. Women are told to be empowered, but also to submit when it's convenient. It's a chaotic mess, and nobody knows what the hell they're supposed to do anymore. And let's not even get started on the gap between hypotheticals and reality. In theory, the modern ideals sound great. Equality, emotional connection, shared responsibilities. Who wouldn't want that? But in practice, the world we live in doesn't work like that. Real relationships don't thrive on Instagram quotes and TED Talks. They thrive on understanding, compromise, and sometimes just plain grit. The messy reality of being human. The truth is, life is messy. People are messy. And relationships, real functional ones, are definitely can be messy. No amount of emotional labor or therapy jargon is going to change the fact that humans are flawed and at times complicated. Instead of trying to fit everyone into neat little boxes, maybe we should focus on dealing with reality as it is, not as we wish it were. Men and women aren't enemies. We're not designed to be at war with each other. But the systems around us sure as hell want us to think we are. The sooner we realize this, the sooner we can stop playing into the chaos and start rebuilding something that actually works. So no, this isn't about blaming women or men. It's about understanding the bigger picture. We're all caught in the same trap, fed the same garbage, and fumbling our way through the same confusing world. The sooner we stop taking the bait, the sooner we can get back to what really matters, building relationships and communities that work in the real world, not the shiny, curated version we're being sold. Final thoughts. So, if you're tired of the circus, here's the takeaway. Stop buying into the nonsense. If you're a woman, figure out what you actually want and stop expecting your partner to be your therapist. If you're a man, stop apologizing for being masculine. Emotionality isn't the goal, functionality is. Relationships aren't about achieving some utopian dream. They're about building something real. And if none of this makes sense to you, well, maybe it's time to put down the self-help books, turn off the rom-coms, and have a stiff look in the mirror.